Jaipur, she gives her name. She lives without shame in Manila, Sultanbul. Though we're different as can be, we're connected, she with me. We are one woman. Your courage keeps me strong. We are one woman. You sing, I sing along. We are one woman. Your dreams are mine, and we shall shine. We shall shine.
And one man, he hears her voice. One man, he fights her fight. Day by day, he lets go the old ways. One woman at a time.
Though she's half a world away, something in me wants to say, we are one woman. Your victory leads us all. We are one woman. You rise and I stand tall. We are one woman. Your world is mine, and we shall shine. Shine, shine, shine.
Good evening, good morning from wherever you're joining us. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on validating of the gender responsive RTB seed systems multi-stakeholder framework, a review of banana and sweet potato seed systems in Northern Uganda. My name is Vivian Atakos. I will moderate the discussion together with Connie. I saw her in the meeting a while back, but I think she also had some problems, so I'll see whether she's back. This meeting is being recorded, and we are going to share the recording. We'll upload it on YouTube so that we can be able, sorry, not YouTube. We are going to have it online. Yes, it's YouTube. And then we'll be able to share it with others who have registered for the webinar but were not able to join us. So at this point, because I see Connie is not here, she was supposed to give us a few remarks. We can defer that and go straight into the discussion. We will be having a presentation that has been prepared by Sarah Mayanja of the International Potato Center, Susan Ajambo of the Alliance of Biodiversity and SIAT, and we'll also have Enoch Kikulwe, again of the Alliance of Biodiversity International and SIAT. So maybe Susan, as you get your presentation online, I can just give a brief of the speakers. Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, Vivian, I can hear you well.
Are you comfortable sharing your screen, or do you want us to share your presentation from our side?
No, I will share my screen.
Okay, so maybe you can get it on, but in the meantime, I will introduce the speakers for the day, those who worked on that presentation. We have Sarah Mayanja, who is an agroecologist currently working as Gender Senior Research Associate with the International Potato Center. Sarah is based in Uganda since 2011. She holds an MSc in agroecology and is currently pursuing her PhD in agroecology and food systems. She has extensive experience in agricultural marketing and gender responsive value chain development. We have Susan Ajambo, who's a research assistant, gender and value chains based at the Alliance of Biodiversity International and SIAT in Uganda since May 2013. And her work involves gender-oriented research in areas that include banana pests and disease management, banana seed system, and value chain upgrading. We also have Enoch Kikulwe, who's a scientist in the Development Impact Unit of the Alliance of Biodiversity International NCIAT. He's based in Uganda, and his work focuses on adoption and impact assessment of agricultural technologies and sustainable use of natural resources in smallholder crop systems of East and Southern Africa. So those are our speakers for the day. They prepared the joint presentation that we are going to hear from Susan. So Susan, are you ready? I cannot
I'm being helped to share my screen. Just a minute.
Okay.
This one, yes.
Yeah, it's almost here.
Okay. Is that okay now?
Not yet. Not yet. As you continue to sort it out, yes, it's come through. I see that Connie has managed to connect, and she was to give us sort of some welcome remarks. So I don't know whether we should give her the chance. Connie, your screen is coming through, Susan. It's okay.
Okay.
Yes, I was just wondering whether we want to give Connie an opportunity to give some welcome remarks and sort of frame this discussion before you go on.
Thank you very much. I have to be honest and say that it escaped my attention that I was supposed to give some sort of welcome address, but I have seen that quite a number of people are attending, so I'm very happy with that. And I actually look forward to this presentation myself as well. Because of course, in the RTB and the RTB Toolbox community, the multi-stakeholder framework is one of our gems. And to make this thing gender responsive is an important element in the entire toolbox. So looking forward to hear from you, Susan, and your team, what you have to share with us. And thank you for the rest of making time to sit in and listen as well.
Thank you, Connie. And over to you, Susan. We can see your presentation. Just start from wherever you can.
Thank you, Vivian. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Can I see? Oh, is it this? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen very clearly. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you for introducing us, Vivian. I'm currently seated here with the Sarah Mayanja. Unfortunately, Enoch is unable to be with us here because of some health complications. See the presentation bit. Because of some health complications, and I would also want to say, where I can see the notes. No, it shouldn't be this. I also want to say that part of this team, we have Nesai Modege and Anne Retvield. They may not be part of this presentation, but they are part of the whole study. So they've been added to, it's okay. So they've been added to the presentation. And as Vivian made the introduction, this presentation is about a research activity that sought to validate or to test the G+ multi-stakeholder framework tool. And I will just give you an outline of this presentation. We will first give you a short background of the study. Then we will briefly talk about the methodology. Then to just give context to the study and the results, we will give a brief description of the two seed systems that we studied, the banana and the sweet potato seed systems. And that brief description will focus on the structure of these two systems, and will briefly highlight some of the key elements in these seed systems. Then we will go to the result bit, and I want to note here that these results are a bit preliminary, but we believe we have good insights into the objective of the study. So we will break this part of the findings into three. We will first talk about the seed availability component, and then we will share the experiences, the unique experiences of men and women. The same for the seed access, and then for the knowledge and quality component. Then we will have conclusions and the next steps. Now, as part of the background, this study is part of the toolbox development component of the CC 2.1 cluster, which is looking at developing a collection of approaches and tools to guide research in the RTD seed systems at different stages. The Multi-Stakeholder Framework is one of the most developed tools in the toolbox. And the objective of this framework is to identify the major stakeholders in the seed systems, their roles, and the critical bottlenecks in the seed systems. As part of the efforts into developing this toolbox, there has been a social and gender perspective integration in this tool, and a set of guidelines and research questions were developed to guide this aspect. And so this study specifically went out to test the recommended guidelines for integrating a gender and social perspective in this tool. As briefly mentioned, the objective of this study was to validate the gender responsive multi-stakeholder framework tool. And specifically, we thought to describe and compare the two seed systems of banana and sweet potato. And as I said earlier, to look at those three aspects and identify the unique experiences of men and women to inform the recommendations that we will make. This study was conducted in Northern Uganda in two districts. We had the district of Oguru and Omoro. And within those districts, we went to two sub-counties. One of the Igulu, we went to Awach sub-county and Paicho sub-county. And for Omoro, we went to Ongako and the Bobi sub-counties. These sub-counties were selected mainly because in these sub-counties, you can find bananas that grow the two crops that we wanted, we were looking at. We have a number of farmers that grow both banana and sweet potatoes. And then there have also been previous attempts or efforts to intervene in the seed systems of the two crops in these two areas. So those are some of the reasons that inform the selection of these sites. Briefly, on the tools that we used and the participants, we collected data across the seed system. We looked at the farmers, we looked at the market traders, the people who trade in the seed, the suckers and the vines. We also looked at the multipliers for the decentralized vine multipliers. There were also model farmers for the banana seed system. Then we held a kind of a stakeholders workshop that was targeting stakeholders that are in the regulatory category. Here we had the seed inspectors, we had agriculture officers, agriculture extension, and a number of stakeholders that we can categorize as regulation. And we used a number of tools to collect the data. We had focus group discussions, mainly with the farmers, and we had a total of 16 focus group discussions, 8 with the banana farmers and 8 with sweet potato farmers. Initially, we had thought of having farmers that grow both banana and sweet potato, but then we looked at the biases that would cause, so we decided to have a banana group and banana groups and sweet potato groups. Then we also had the individual interviews with the market traders. As you can see, there are gaps in there because we did not have suckers in the market, so we don't have any respondents there for banana. And when it came to sweet potato, at the time of this study, we did not find any man trading in vines. So we only ended up interviewing the women who were there. Then we also had interviews with the vine multipliers or model farmers for potato. Then as part of the workshop, we had group interviews with categories of these stakeholders. In total, we had around 126 people as part of the interview, and then we had around 51 participants for the workshop. You can see that for the workshop, we had fewer women. This is something that we could not change because we were looking at people who actually held positions in the seed system who are already in those positions. So there were few women, and that's the reason why we had only those ones for those study, to participate in the study. I now want to give just a brief demographics of the study participants, focusing on the farmers and the vine multipliers and traders. We looked at what the age group in which they belong. For the farmers, the mean age was around 43, ranging between 19 and 72 years. For the vine multipliers and the traders, vine multipliers include the model farmers for banana. Their mean age was 42, still ranging between 24 and 64. We also looked at the land sizes. Maybe before I talk about the land sizes, I need to say, looking at the participants for the banana seed system and the potato seed system, we didn't find any significant difference. And the sweet potato, I've been corrected by Sarah when I said potato. Okay, the sweet potato seed system, we didn't find any significant differences in their mean ages. Then these were smallholders, small land holding. We did not capture, the presentation here does not show the overall land owned by the family, but we are only looking at the sizes of their plots, the sizes of the banana plots and the sizes of the sweet potato plots. And on average, they had around 0.3 hectares, ranging between 0.1 and 3 hectares. For sweet potato, it was around 0.28, that was the average. And for banana, slightly higher, not significant, 0.32. Most of the participants were married. Farming was their main occupation. And for education, the farmers their education was equivalent to the primary education in Uganda, while for the seed multipliers and the traders, it was slightly higher into post-primary. So I'll go to the first aspect of the results that looks at a description of these two seed systems. This is first of all, we found that the banana seed system banana is a considerably new crop in northern Uganda. Not new that it was not there originally, but it was not an important crop. So it's just beginning to grow in importance in northern Uganda compared to sweet potato. So the establishment of the seed system is also relatively new on banana and just beginning to come up, while for sweet potato, it is fairly well established. Then, of course, the type of crop also comes in. Banana is perennial, sweet potato is annual. And then from the perspective of the farmers, from the results that we were getting, banana was perceived as a male crop, while the sweet potato was perceived as a female crop. Then when we look at the actors in these two seed systems, both systems had private and public actors. And for the public actors, we had the national research organizations, we had government ministries, and then for the private, we had the seed multipliers, We also had some unique actors that were mapped, like the media and then the financial institutions that were private. And the number of actors in the banana seed system were few, while those of the sweet potato were more. And when you look at the stages in these two seed systems, banana typically had around 3 stages. We had the National Research Organization that delivered foundation seed. And then from the foundation seed, you go to the model farmers. A few of them had set up mother gardens and they were producing suckers and then directly to the farmers. There was nothing like markets and so on, like it was for sweet potato. But for sweet potato, you had the private labs like biocrops, and then from the private lab, you go to the secondary producers. There was a prominent guy there, Peter Omondi. Everybody seemed to know him, who was producing, and then the decentralized vine multipliers would get from Peter Omondi. Then you also had the local multipliers who were conserving seed in the wetlands. And then we had people in the markets, the traders, to the farmers. So there was more of a hierarchy and more organization in the sweet potato seed system compared to the banana seed system. And looking at the aspect of technology, there was also more technology in the sweet potato seed system, like the screenhouses, use of screenhouses in multiplication, the use of rapid multiplication techniques, triple S. And we found that these multiplications, like, for example, the triple S, were being used by both men and women, which we found quite interesting from a gender perspective. And for banana, everything was basically rudimentary, because the tissue culture was a one-off, which was as the provided by Narrow, and then the model farmers were just now producing suckers normally. And when it came to regulation, there did not seem to be anything related to inspection or even checking what was happening in the seed system. And yet for the sweet potato seed system, we had seed inspectors in there. We had the vine multipliers being visited by extension workers, agents every now and then. So there was a bit of checking in the seeds, most checking or bit of checking in the seed system, and this was non-existent in the banana seed system. Then for the drivers, of these two seed systems, for banana it was basically income and food, while for sweet potato there was a component, a nutritional component, where everybody was talking about this, the nutritious, the vitamin A, the orange-fleshed bananas, the sweet potato, sorry, the sweet potato, the orange-fleshed sweet potatoes as one of the reasons or the drivers for participation or even accessing or the demand for the sweet potato vines. And then when it came to varietal knowledge and utilization by users, still for banana it was minimal, with even the model farmers multiplying varieties that they did not know, that they did not know their names, nor did they know their use. So after producing, say, the crop, then they try to experiment with the use. And but for potato, there was a bit of more. So that is the context in which we intervened. And just briefly, building on that last slide, there was weak coordination among the actors, and you would find parallel operation. For example, when you look at the inspection aspect of the vine multipliers, you would have seed inspectors visiting the extension agents visiting the other day, and there was a bit of resources. Then there was also lack of synchronizing mechanisms for the different activities within the system. I'll still give an example of the sweet potato, where the alignment between vine multiplication and distribution with the starting of the planting season was basically not there. This will come out as I present the other results. then you would also expect that since banana and sweet potato have some similarities in terms of both being vegetative crops, propagation is vegetative, both being under the district agriculture office, and they seemed to show that they were all targeting, they had the same objectives, but then the operations were parallel, they were not at all linked in any way. And in the discussions that we had with the stakeholders, we also, if actually across with the farmers and everybody, there was a lot of interplay between the socioeconomic and technical aspects, each working together in a synergistical way. So I'll now go into the aspects of the seed availability. I want to mention here that for this study, we adopted a Likert scale in which we used it to get information from the farmers on all the aspects. For seed availability, we looked at the ability to get enough seed and the timeliness. And the scale here was whether it is very difficult or difficult, neither difficult nor sources. So these are the sources that came out. Farmers were sourcing from model farmers, from NGOs, from markets, from neighbors, for their own farms, and then from the sub-county. And what is interesting here is that when the aspect of seed availability, the model farmers and markets seemed to be the most perceived to be offering to be the most suitable for these aspects, because when you look at the way they were ranked, they were all between neither difficult or easy or even very easy. But when it came to the neighbors, and this worked for both. The model farmers was working good for banana, and the markets were working good for the sweet potato actors. And when it came to, for example, I would like to highlight for the neighbors. Here I want to highlight the differences between the perceptions of men and women actors in the sweet potato seed system. Here we see the women ranking ability to get enough seed as very easy and timeliness as difficult. But when you come to the men rank both timeliness and ability to get enough seed from the neighbors as a source as very difficult. And of course, there were discussions that led to this. And some of the discussions that came up were really linked to the social and gender norms. For example, the men ranking the aspect of neighbors as, given that sweet potato is a women crop, mostly grown by women, so that means the men had to go to the women to pick or to request for the vines. And socially, you cannot move around your wife's neighbor, all the time because you want to get vines. So they did not find it as socially okay, and so it was difficult for them. While for the women, it was okay for them to freely interact with their fellow women and seek the seeds. I would now want to show some of the quotes that led to the ranking of seed availability, the way it was ranked. There is one, the women, the sweet potato women, one of the women in the FGD for sweet potato talked about Gulu market as having, when you go to the market, you will really find the vines there in big quantities. So availability, the capacity to get the vines in the quantities that you want was there. The only problem was the affordability of these vines, which moves into now access. Then when we look at the banana, for example, the quote that is highlighted green, this woman says it is sometimes difficult because when you want suckers for a particular variety, the model farmer may not have it. So that means you will not be able to access that seed. And when we look at the men, I don't seem to have any quote here. Okay, there is the first quote. The man there says there are more varieties that only specific people have. So they can't give vines to you as you need them, which makes it difficult to get enough. So this was basically sourcing from the neighbors. I think this gentleman was talking about the neighbors. People have a few varieties, and this was a case when it came to the improved varieties. They already refreshed sweet potato. People had just a few of them. So if you wanted those particular varieties, it was an issue. So we moved to the issue of accessibility, seed access, and we still had the same at scale, and you see that we have some sources, especially when it comes to affordability, still sources where you can access seed free of charge. But I want to highlight that the issue of affordability of seed was an issue in both seed systems, because other than where the seed was free, it was ranked everywhere by both men and women as difficult. It was not easy to afford. And when it came to, now I want to highlight the difference here using the banana seed system, the difference between the perceptions of men and women. When it came to the ease of reaching the sources, here we were basically looking at physical location. We find, for example, for the model farm, ranking it as the women from the same community ranking it as the man ranks it as neither difficult nor easy, and then the women still ranking it as a result of a number of issues, especially when it comes to ease of reaching these sources. We will look at some quotes later. But one of the issues that was, of course, for banana, they were looking at the bulkiness of the suckers, and the transport came in as a big issue. So how many suckers? The women mainly did not have means that they used to carry these suckers, were either carrying them on their head or pushing a wheelbarrow, while the men, on the other hand, had bicycles and motorcycles. So all those issues had issues. And of course, in the quotes, you will notice that the women were also talking about not having enough time to go and look for seed, especially if you are looking for particular orange fleshed here, if you are looking for particular varieties. Again, I want to share some quotes. The first quote is still from Women in the Sweet Potato FGD. And here they say the improved or the orange fleshed sweet potato varieties are not locally available in our village. We must move long distances and incur transport costs, in addition to the cost of the vines, which makes it hard for us to access. Then the women from the banana system also talked about the preferred varieties being difficult, and here they raise an issue of you bouncing when you go, for example, to the market. I would like to mention here that in the markets in Gulu and the Omoro where we studied, there were no banana suckers in there. But Kamdin market is a bigger market at a distance. So the few women who had a chance to go to that market would be able to fetch some banana suckers there. And it was a disappointment when you moved all that distance and you bounced.
Sorry,
Then
Susan.
let's.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
You have 5 minutes. Please wrap up in the next 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just share some quotes in the 5 minutes from the aspect of knowledge. We still find that there were some differences in the knowledge levels between men and women. And here we focused on the disease identification. These quotes are focusing on the ability to identify diseased suckers of vines. And I'll just refer to one from the sweet potato, where this woman was saying, we identify by looking at the leaves. If they are wrinkled and yellow, we suspect sickness. And we find that the women in this part gave more detail when it came to sweet bananas, and when it came to sweet potatoes, the women gave more detail regarding disease identification compared to the men. And it was the same thing and vice versa for banana. The men gave more detail on symptoms of diseased suckers than the women. So since I have only 5 minutes, I'll move to this slide that highlights the disparities between men and women. And these are also presented in quotes. The first quote looks at, we asked these respondents whether the challenges that they were facing were the same for men and women. And this is from one man in Omoro who said some of the challenges are the same for men and women, but not all of them. Most of the women carry the vines on their heads, which is also not easy, but also most women do not buy vines in the market because of the transport problem, especially transporting the vines home. So they mostly get from their neighbors. Then there was also another quote. Let me move to the one in red, the last one. It's hard to get the improved seed varieties even when we yearn for them because there are very few in the neighborhood. And if you need them, you must go looking for them. But where is the time to go looking for suckers? You must take care of the children, go to the garden, and then the market, so there is no time. If a neighbor has, they can give you only 3 suckers. Also, the issue of transport to get suckers outside of the village, you must incur transport costs. But we do not have the money to do that. So this just highlights some of the differences, and these differences came out because of specifically asking, probing, if the challenges were the same or different for men and women. So in conclusion, these few results actually show that the G plus MSF tool is able to actually bring out or dig out those unique experiences of men and women. And even when the constraints come up, you're able to see that there are constraints that are shared by both men and women, but you're also able to see which of the two is disadvantaged. In this case, the women turned out to be the most disadvantaged. But it also brings out the synergies between the technical and the social aspects, which are interwoven and which is very important, I think, when you're intervening. We have not gone through all the results, but these clearly come up when the women, for example, and the men who are the multipliers or the producers of seed, talk about issues of finances, wanting to access loans, issues of communication, wanting to link with the media, and how it is easy for them to access information. Where you see that these two, the technical and non-technical or the social, really have to work together to be able to address these issues. And on the aspect of, for example, I'll go back briefly on the issue of highlighting the gender-based constraints. You are even able, for example, the Likert scale that we use